Here we go. Here we go. Talk Jamie Talk. Hey y'all, what's up? Welcome back to Talk Jamie Talk. It's been a minute since I've been on here. Y'all know I took a break and it was a long break, but since the debate came on last night between Harris and Biden, I decided that I would get on here and read a couple things out. If I can find my thingy. I want to read a couple of things that really did not catch my eye because they didn't even talk on it. But, well, I have the CBS News article in front of me here that lays it out just as plain as clear as to what was said last night. And, we're just going to go over it because really, this is the 2024 presidential election. In 54 days, we're going to have us a new president. Now, who it would be, I don't know. November 5th, somebody is coming into office. Whether it be Biden or, not Biden, but Harris or Trump. I don't know which one is coming, but I certainly hope that they are coming with good intentions and for the American people. Now, where do I stand in? Of course, I'm for the American people. How do I vote? I can't tell you that because I've learned to let that be my business. I mean, I could, but it's hard to tell right now, to be honest, because I have voted for Trump in the past. I really did. Now, I voted for Trump whenever he first came out. I voted for him, but I had no idea that he was going to flip the script like that either. And that taught me a lesson in voting to really pay attention to what the candidates are saying. And that's why I want to read this article out to y'all on today so that we can hear what they are saying. And I don't even know if I'm going to read the whole article because there were some things I just want to say. Based off of what I saw last night was that Kamala, she speaks the best. She speaks well. She's very educated. She has... she's in there. She's vice president. I mean, she's already there. And there was one thing that I agreed with Trump on. See how they mess with us. I agree with him on, she's been there 3 years. Why hasn't she done nothing while she's been in position now? Nothing worse than a person in position who does absolutely nothing. That's about like I saw somebody who, not somebody, but I saw a few people over the last few years who had big talk. I mean, they had big talk and people were like, yes, change is finally coming to North Carolina. And then when these people got in the office, they shut up. They said nothing. They did nothing but what they were told to do. Whatever they were told to do, that's what they did. And it was not for the American people. It was not for the counties. It wasn't for the communities. It was for the benefit of those who already had big investments, big money. Big money grips win every time. So here we have Harris and Trump who are going back and forth with that. That was like, I don't know if it was me or was that debate. I watched the whole thing and it was just, I did not see enough fight in neither one of them's eyes. I mean, if you're fighting for this country, if it's going to show, it need to show during the debate. And I didn't see that. I was looking for it in Trump. I was looking for it in Kamala Harris. I didn't see it in her. I just seen, it looked like middle school kids fussing back and forth. Have you ever seen middle school kids debate? That's what it was like. It was not even like an adult debate. Okay? Anyways, let's see here. CBS News article, and it's titled Kamala Harris Policy Plans and Platform on Key Issues for the 2024 Election. Okay, so the tax plan here was, I'm going to read the whole article, by the way, so if y'all want to know where this comes from, it comes from cbsnews.com. It's none of my work. This belongs to them. Let me see if I can find the author. So we really got to stroll our way down. Well, I can't find the author. not from where I'm accessing from. But let me see. It's several authors. It is Melissa Quinn, Caitlin. Well, y'all go on and you'll find it. I gave you the title. Okay, so the tax plan, Trump and Harris have competing tax plans. Both nominees' plans would have to be passed by Congress, which has the power of the purse. Here's what Harris has proposed so far. Harris says she'd provide bigger tax benefits for families, but would offset the costs by raising corporate taxes, while Trump has said he'd extend the tax cuts enacted in 2017. Under Harris' tax plan, according to an analysis by the Penn Wharton budget model, 95% of Americans would see lower taxes and higher earners would pay more taxes. The top 0.1%, whose annual average income exceeds $14 million, would pay about $167,000 more in taxes. Harris wants to eliminate federal taxes on tips, which Trump first proposed. She also says she wants to provide a financial cushion for small businesses with a 10-fold increase in the startup expense deduction, lifting it from $5,000 to $50,000. New businesses wouldn't need to claim the deduction in the first year, when many take losses, and would not be able to use it. Instead, they'd be able to wait until they're profitable and use the deduction at that time. Businesses would also be able to take part of the deduction in 1 year and save the rest for future years. I don't know much about how many people have to live, but I do know low-income families depend on taxes to come through every year to pull them out of binds, struggling throughout the whole year. And then when January finally comes, it is a little relief to those low-income families. So I don't know what to say on that. It looks like it might be good, but it always has a repercussion somewhere in there. I don't see these businesses. Putting this money into the new businesses, it's okay, it's fine. But what we've seen from the pandemic is most of those new businesses that came out, they did not survive. Most of those people who came out as content creators and they established businesses based upon their content, they didn't survive. They're not really making that kind of money now like they was back when the pandemic had everybody at home. And now you're starting to see that those content creators and these small businesses, some of them they're not alive anymore. They're just gone. The businesses have shut down. So I think money, when it comes down to these taxes, even though you're charging the rich more, we need to make sure that these low-income families are getting, and middle-class families are getting exactly what they're supposed to be getting, because even the middle class is struggling now. And the rich are poor rich. They have their own set of poor. Okay, let's keep going. Okay. This is the part right here. Child tax credit. After Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance pitched boosting the child tax credit to $5,000, up from the current top tax break of $2,000. Harris won up Vance's number, suggesting a child tax credit of $6,000. Although this would be for the parents of newborns. I don't like that. You know why I don't like that it's just for newborns? Is because we have teenagers who still need a lot of taking care of. Parents need more. If anything, they need more than ever money once these kids start growing. But just to give it only to the newborn and then kind of make that little mark talking about help get a stroller with a car seat. Yeah, those things are important, but what is critical to these children needs are that that they have bills paid, that they are able to have lights, decent water, food, And just to give it to the newborns, that's not right. And for so many years, we have just neglected anybody who is 5 and older. It's time we start increasing funds for those who are 5 and older too now. I mean, being a grandparent of 6 granddaughters, I see what it takes to raise a lot of children. And that just providing for one, it doesn't always get it. Especially on the way these jobs pay these days. Anyway, let's keep reading. Harris also suggested a return on the pandemic-era expansion of the child tax credit up to $36,000 for young children. She hasn't released income eligibility thresholds, but it's likely that it will phase out for those at higher income levels. Earlier this year, Senate Republicans blocked legislation that would have increased the child tax credit. And not only should they increase the child tax credit, but they should increase the age to at least 18. Come on now. To at least 18, because these kids are growing. And the older kids require more than the little kids. It's not, think about it. From age 1 to 4 at least. Your newborn doesn't necessarily have to be in school. But if your child is a teenager from 5 and up, they have to be in school. And we need to look out for these kids too. Whatever you increase, we need to increase for all of those kids. At least up to the age of 18. Okay. Housing shortage. Harris says she'd address the nation's housing shortage with several initiatives. She promises to build 3 million affordable new homes and rentals by the end of her first term, offering tax breaks to builders who construct homes for first-time home buyers. She also proposing a $40 billion fund to help local governments find solutions to the low housing stock. Well, you know what? That's good. Now, I like that. I do. I like the fact that she's trying to bring these homes in here, but honey, what them payments gonna look like for people like me, who's on Social Security, who's on disability? What them payments gonna look like? Is these homes even for us? Or are they just for people who work? These are things that I would like to know more details on. And not only that, are these 3 million homes even for the U.S. people, the American people? Because you got to think, we had a lot of illegals come in. These immigrants have came in and they are scattered throughout the states. So is these homes really for us or are they for others? Because as of now, we the people, some of the people of the United States, we feel like we have been forgotten about, and that, they're just throwing it in our face how they helping everybody except those of us in the United States that are at poverty levels. We have been forgotten about, and they jumped straight from what they should have been doing helping us. Why they couldn't have gave us those funds? Why they couldn't have gave us housing? I understand there's HUD housing out here, and you got your Section 8 housing and things, but still, you look at people who are single, okay, single people, no children, it's hard for them to get into houses. And we sit back and we see a number of these people who lose their lives every year to different health diseases because they can't get into decent housing, because they don't have adequate running water. They don't have transportation back and forth to the doctors, and they can't afford the rent on some of these apartments that are being built, because the rent is like almost $1,000. And if your income is only $1,200-$1,300 or even $2,000, that's not even enough to cover the light bill, grocery. And when I think about it, there's a lot of elderly and disabled who do receive they do receive food stamps, but some of them are told their income is so high, so they get the basic minimum. And the basic minimum in North Carolina, I believe, is like $19 or $20. That's it for food. So these houses coming in, and she trying to address the housing shortage. I just want to know who gonna get pushed out in order to get put in. That's what I want to know. And I'll take a sip of water on that. If we're going to find solutions, we ought to see where the true problems are at. And the true problems could have been resolved if Biden had taken some of that money and gave to some of these poor people that are out here. He would have gave me some money. Heck, I'm in a bind. Everyone, it's not, the thing about poor people is that you just don't find one poor. When you see them walking the streets or you see them begging for food, you bet your bottom dollar that there is a cluster of them somewhere within that area. And they just seep out every once in a while. And so building these houses is only going to benefit those who can afford these houses. So that's why I asked, who are these houses for? I mean, I'm happy and excited to hear 3 million affordable new homes, but there are truly some real disabled people out here who really cannot work, who cannot sit around and talk on podcasts. They really do have to have, people help them. Anyways, and she wants to provide Americans who have paid their rent on time for 2 years up to $25,000 in down payment assistance with more support for first-generation homeowners. Well, on that part right there, now I went around the last 5 years. My siblings and I have been searching around, trying to find, adequate housing for certain ones in the family. Do you know that those down payments on housing these days for just a single wide is $25,000? And that's in the low income areas. It is hard to find a home for a down payment less than that. So while that's going to be helpful, it's going to be helpful, but let's just keep going. It will be helpful, if you can get the $25,000 down payment and you got 5 or 10 to go with it. Yes, it's helpful. Okay, it is helpful. It sounds good, but again, this is to the who is this addressed to, because it doesn't really feel like it's addressed to people who may have a little less than others. Okay, let's keep going. Inflation. Okay, economics. Here we come. Inflation has cooled nearly to pre-pandemic levels. It's now at 2.9%, but prices have risen nearly 21% since the beginning of the pandemic. A recent survey found 2/3 of middle-income families said they're falling behind their cost of living. Of course, we're all falling behind the cost of living. We all are. Okay. Harris is trying to address the effects of inflation on lower and middle-class Americans. An approach used by Biden administration. Well, he gave all the money away that he could have been giving to us. We wouldn't have been like this. Our industrial companies and farms, they wouldn't have been lacking if they would have got some of that money that he gave away. Okay, let me stop. Americans' approach used by Biden administration. She blames price gouging by food suppliers and grocery chains for higher prices at the store and pledged to take on corporations with the first federal law against price gouging. Economists have expressed doubts about the efficacy of such a law because they say that the reasons for food inflation are complex. That's the thing about it. She's going to try to fight against that and blame these companies, but these people cannot raise their cattle and their pigs and stuff, the way traditionally that we used to do, because everything is going up. And if it goes up on one end of the scale, then it goes up on the other end. So it's inflation. It's what goes up for one, goes up for another. Or if some of them are pretending like it's going up and then overcharging people. I noticed the eggs were $2.52 about 3 months ago. Or 2 months ago. Maybe two months ago. They were $2 and something. About maybe $2.77. Anyway, they was not $3.54 for a dozen. Now, eggs have went up over $1 and something just in my area. And I'm not in no big time city area. I'm in the low level country area. So inflation is here. What can be done about it? Don't know. Because I don't think inflation is gonna be on its way out until they get truthful with themselves. And the truth is, they just didn't allow so many people to come in there and tell them what to do, that's what they're doing, whatever they want to do. And the ones that need to be investigated in the leaderships, they're not getting investigated. Instead, they are so busy focusing on wars outside of the United States. And I understand why that's an important thing to do, by the way. It is important to do that. But at the same time, we got to make sure that our people are taken care of too. And right now, what I'm seeing is our people are not being taken care of. They are giving food stamps away to illegal immigrants, and here we have people that are hungry. That they might get a one-time emergency stamp that might be high, but then the next month, it might be $16. So it's a lot. It's a lot. It is complex. That is complex. Now, if she's saying that they are price gouging, the food suppliers are doing it, then I wonder why the food suppliers are doing it besides being greedy. Are they doing it out of fear that, if we don't get this extra money that we may lose out in the next quarter or the next 5 years? What are they basing all that on? Okay, let's move on. She also wants to lower prescription drug costs, which has been a focus for the Biden administration. Last month, the White House announced Medicare reached agreements with drug manufacturers for lower prices for 10 drugs that treat a range of ailments from heart failure and blood clots to diabetes, resulting in savings for patients of 38% to 79%. According to Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. It was Harris who cast the tie-breaking vote for the Inflation Reduction Act, which granted Medicare the drug negotiating authority. You know what? Now, don't quote me, but you can. I have a good feeling that Medicare is going to come back around and bite some of these private practices in the butt. And that's just me. Because if Medicare really does their homework on their patients, then they will be able to see the ones who really are in need and, just not getting. And the ones who don't need, or it seems like they're able to get a lot. I just believe that some of these private practices are going to go down. Because Medicare is going to wake up and realize that they're paying on things, tests, that equipments don't even work. Just a lot of malpractice suits are going to come forth. Now, let me keep going. She also, I already read that. Okay, immigration. Immigration has not yet issued an immigration policy platform. At campaign events, Harris has mostly brought up the bipartisan border security deal that collapsed in Congress earlier this year after Trump urged GOP lawmakers to reject it. Harris has promised to revive the bill and accused Trump of scuttling it for political reasons. The legislation would have enacted permanent restrictions. Y'all, I'm sorry if I cannot pronounce words right. Restrictions on asylums, giving the president the power to quickly deport migrants when border crossings soar, and boosted the ranks of border agents, deportation officers, immigration judges, and asylum adjudicators. It would also have expanded legal immigration, allotting 50,000 new immigrant visas annually for 5 years. 50 times, that's over 250,000 new immigrants for 5 years. Okay, you know what? Okay, so we know where they stand at on immigration. I'm just going to skip that. Let's get to the abortion. The next talk was about Harris and Trump having opposing views on abortion access, an issue that could be crucial motivator for voters in November. Both Trump and Harris have highlighted the Supreme Court's reversal of Roe v. Wade in June 2022 and the role that 3 justices appointed by Trump played in that landmark decision for different reasons. Trump has touted his nomination of 3 of the 5 justices who voted to overturn Roe, while Harris has criticized her opponent for specifically selecting justices who would dismantle the constitutional right to abortion. Since the High Court's decision in Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization, nearly 1/3 of the states have near total bans on the procedure in place, while access to abortion is severely restricted in a handful of others. Harris has made abortion rights a focal point of her campaign and lambasted Trump abortion bans on the trial. In her speech at the Democratic National Convention, y'all, I cannot read. Excuse me, I haven't read in a long time. Accepting party's presidential nominee, the vice president pledged to sign into law legislation that restores the federal right to abortion if such a bill is passed by Congress. Y'all, abortion. I believe abortion should be a woman's right. That's where I stand on that. I think a woman should be able to choose if they want an abortion or not. And that's not just because some women get pregnant through rapes or other horrific ways. It's not just because of that. But I feel as a person, they should be able to decide what they want to do. Because that person knows what they can live with and what they cannot live with as a human being. And who are we to take away their rights to judge? Their rights to say, hey, I don't want to have this baby, or I'm going to have this baby. However, speaking in the same note, I think that there should be a law, and I strongly want it to be made known at how doctors can cause such a fear into patients that they coerce them into having abortions by telling them of all these medical complications, and if we gotta sign papers, doctors should be able to sign papers too. And I would like that to be like that, because I personally, I have had to live with the decision of making a decision whether to have an abortion or not. And that decision has stayed with me for a life, for my whole entire life. It's not a year that goes by that I don't think about consequences and decisions, or I don't think about the what could have been or what should have been concerning that decision. And it was all because of what a few doctors had told me. Doctors had got together one time, and they really made me believe. I mean, they put so much fear into me. And at this time, I wasn't a faith believer. I wasn't in church or anything. And I didn't have much guidance or nobody I could talk to about it. But these doctors made me feel like I had to do what they said do. You got to get rid of this baby. If you don't get rid of this baby, you're going to die. And the question that one doctor asked me, and I never forgot it. Well, what do you want to do? Do you want to be here for the 2 children that you do have? Or do you want to sacrifice your life for this one? I want doctors to be held accountable for that type of language, that type of coercion. Because back then, I had no idea that there was a thing where they were trying to cut the population down. I did not know that at that time. I was a young girl. I did not know that the reason for birth control was so that most of the black women would stop having babies, stop so-called overpopulating the earth with black babies. See, I did not know that back then. And at the time in the early 90s, doctors, they were pushing this prenatal care. And at the same time, they were pushing for contraceptives and birth control. Next thing you know, everybody was on birth control. And those who were not on birth control, they were coerced into having abortions up to 20 weeks. And when a baby is 20 weeks, you can tell that baby is formed. You can feel that. And, it's got to be something more that can be done in that area, I think. But as far as a woman having an abortion, or maybe a little girl having to make a decision, she may have been raped by whoever, and she has to make that decision whether she wants to keep that child or not. I think that still, if it's a minor, I think that, parents should be in the play, or whoever the caregiver is of the child. And I think as for adult women, that they should be able to make that decision whether to keep the baby or not. It's up to them. But I do, again, doctors should not be out here coercing women into getting abortions based on race. Yeah, based on race. Y'all remember back in the slavery days, it was a demand for black babies, especially black boys, so they could work the farms. And the women could tend to the houses. The women kids could help tend to the houses. So as time evolved, now it's not a demand on black babies. And now you want to teach us to kill our babies. Or you want to coerce us into killing our babies. And then as women, you want to take away our rights to have that decision of what goes on with our bodies. Because I promise you, if you educate enough women out here and you stop putting fear in them about having a child or having a sick child, that we wouldn't hear tell of so many abortions. You wouldn't be fighting this fight. But the fact that the fear has already gone out abroad, this is why the fight is here. Okay? Now, where am I at? Yeah, those doctors need to be held accountable for that. Anyway, how long have I been on here? Okay. As far as the gun laws go, it looks like Harris does not oppose people having guns. Trump doesn't oppose it. Education, as a senator, Harris backed the bill that would have provided tuition-free colleges for most families. The Democratic Party's platform also calls for free college tuition for all. This is not an idea Harris has been discussing on the campaign trail. I would like to know where she stand on that. I think online college is ripping people off. Yes. Online colleges are ripping people off. And this is why I say that. Most of the assignments that these online colleges give you, they send you right to YouTube. Or they send you to an article like this. It shouldn't be nowhere near $60,000 for 2 years. $80,000, $120,000. Come on now. Anyways, if y'all want to read the rest of this article, because I'm about done with it. I mean, I just kind of bored myself out with it. And I'm just going to talk about a little bit of my notes, what I wish they would have talked about. I did write down, by the way, y'all, today is 9/11, and, still praying for those families who are going through the emotions of reliving that tragic day. Twin Towers went down. And I'm praying also for those lawmakers who are in charge of making laws for terrorist threats and all that. Because we got to be careful that we are not attacking U.S. citizens, in which I have found that's what 9/11 happened, and a lot of innocent people who didn't have anything to do with 9/11 were labeled as terrorists after that. So hopefully that can get straightened out. Okay. One of the questions I would love for them to answer is Harris to answer, why are they letting these illegals in knowing, what happened on 9/11? And not only that, but why is the U.S. turning its own citizens into modern day terrorists to attack American citizens? I would like to know that. And the things I would have liked to heard more about was protecting women and women's rights. I would have liked to heard more about police brutality and misconduct. What are you going to do about crime when it's among those who are supposed to be helping prevent crime? How about the real criminals being prosecuted and not just running around saying, well, okay, I assume that this person is a criminal. Haven't we misidentified people too many times before in the past? You cannot just look at somebody and say they black and they're a criminal. That's not right. And that's what's going on. That's still going on. So I would have liked to hear more about that. Opiate crisis. Y'all know this is big money, $1 billion industry, the opiate crisis. I didn't hear anything on that. How about the opening up of rehabilitation institutions? And what are we going to do about this crisis? I mean, we don't want to have neighborhoods full of institutions, but if it's necessary for us to set up something, what's their take on that? I mean, because all these other laws and stuff, they good, but if ain't nobody here, if ain't nobody here living to live it out, and the way this opiate crisis is going, it's hitting the old people. Oh my goodness. Y'all, the older generation does not understand that how powerful these drugs are. They are taking them and not even realizing why they're losing their minds and memory, and why a lot of them are being diagnosed with Alzheimer's and dementia at an early age. It's because of these opiates. That's what it is. Fentanyl. What are they going to do about fentanyl crisis? I didn't hear anything about the mental health crisis that's here in the United States. And we all know during that pandemic and after that pandemic triggered a lot of mental health issues among people. How about school shootings? I didn't hear nothing about school shootings or what laws they plan to put in place, or, what she plans to fight for, or Trump. None of them mention any of this stuff that's really going on in our lives right now. How about laws against the predatory teachers, preachers, ministries, principals, coaches, these guys who are out here assaulting, well, guys and women now, assaulting these young kids, These kids ain't even, they scared to speak up, and then when they do, what's going to happen? What protection are we putting in place for our children that are going to school against these predators? And what are the requirements y'all are requiring other than background checks? I think we need more than background checks. You need to at least find out something about them. Because some of these teachers are just as mean, and all they want is the job. They just want to get paid. That's why they're there. Okay, so what are we doing to prevent these things? I want stricter laws for those caught human trafficking, cyber trafficking, sex trafficking. I want all these people to be held accountable for neglecting complaints of people. When you look at judges, magistrates, law enforcement, mayors, they all need to be held accountable for what they let slip through their fingers. We know that a number of people who were harassed and trafficked was by well-known offenders. It wasn't like there was no stranger to the judicial center. I'm getting worked up. They were no stranger to the judicial. I don't know why this trying to ring now. But they were no stranger to law enforcement. A lot of these people had repeated charges over and over. They were repeated offenders. So we need to hold somebody accountable. Who keeps hiring these cops who have mental illnesses, who have been in trouble before for, misconduct? Why would you hire somebody who already had got in trouble and had been through 6, 7 different police stations to work for because of their behavior? So it's things like that really hold dear to my heart that I would stand and fight for. Yes, I would. If I had, that's why I use my podcast, because I know I don't have funding like that to go places like I would want to. But yes, I would like for laws to be made with what's going on now in these present days, not laws from the 80s, but we need to add some additions to it. Forced labor laws. We need to add these things, and we need to make sure that who's supposed to be watching over these laws and holding people accountable, that they be held accountable too. Because I found that a lot of this trafficking, it starts within the organization that's supposed to be preventing it. Yes. All right, so I've done talked too much, done talked myself dry, and I don't know, y'all. Final thoughts is that right now I'm undecided who I will be voting for. Right now, I don't like anything. Either one of them is really saying itself. I like the housing situation, but I just don't know where who the houses are for. That she did not tell. Other than that, I guess I'll just keep watching and seeing. But as of now, I do not know who I will be voting for. And I'm probably not going to tell who I vote for, because some people can get away with telling who they vote for, and some of us can't. Some of us get held against us, and there's retaliation for who we vote for. So I would just wait, and I'm not going to say anything right now, because again, like I said, retaliation is real. And if you've never experienced it before, thank God. But for those of us who know what retaliation who knows what it means, then you will understand why I choose to let that be my personal choice, who I decide to vote for. Now, it's up to everyone to do whatever they feel is right for them. I'm going to do what I feel is right for me, and who I feel the best person is for the job. Don't just vote based on popularity either, because if you just voting because she says she's black, or Trump says we're going to take over the White House, or MAGA, Make America Great Again, then you're looking at the wrong thing. You should be looking at what qualities and what cares and concerns are they going to bring to the table. Listen at what they're saying. If they're not talking down your alley, then don't vote for them. Y'all act like this is a popularity contest. It's not. This is your life. I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat. If they're not voting for what you stand for, don't vote for them. You got to vote for the people who are voting for who are standing for what you believe in, what's in your heart. So don't just be voting based upon Republican and Democrat or red and blue. At the end of the day, they're all people with an assignment and with an agenda, whether it be good or bad. And I'm going to leave it at that. All right. Peace, love, and happiness. And thank y'all for listening to Talk Jamie Talk.